And good morning again from our digital desk. I'm Dan DeRose with Channel 19. We're going to talk gas prices. You may have noticed in the past week, I certainly have, that prices in and around the Cleveland area kind of jumped or slipped above the $3 a gallon mark. Some places you can still find it for below $3 a gallon, but some stations, depending on where you're at, $3.15, $3.17, even $3.20. Last week, according to Gas Buddy, was the first week that we have seen an increase since October. Prices have fallen since October from about $3.54 a gallon nationally to under $2 a gallon. So that got us wondering, with our first increase, with the holidays coming up, some people are going to be hitting the road this weekend. What should we be planning as far as gas prices? Where are they going to head? So that you can make your budget if you're doing maybe some major traveling, as many will for the upcoming Christmas, New Year holiday season. We're going to welcome in Patrick DeHaan, as we've had several times before. He is the lead petroleum analyst for Gas Buddy. Patrick, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Dan. Good to be with you again.
Gas Buddy is always a phenomenal website for people to use if you're tracking prices in your neighborhood, if you're about to hit out on the road. Phenomenal website, phenomenal app to use. Why not save yourself some money, especially around Christmas and the holidays, by getting maybe 30, 40 cents off finding cheaper gas in your area. Patrick, what was the reason maybe for our first increase last week since October?
Well, that was the first jump in the national average since October. Of course, Ohio is plagued with these infamous price cycles that strike every 1 to 2 weeks. And that's what we saw last week. Almost a double whammy. Prices stepped up from about 250, 260 some stations. They went up to 299, and then other stations went up to 319. So that was one of the infamous price cycles. What happens in much of Ohio is that stations are always undercutting each other by a few cents every day until they start selling at or below their cost. That's what then triggers what we call a price cycle, where stations go from restoring their profit margin to nothing to about 35 or 40 cents. They also pass along any price increases, and that's why those jumps feel so massive. The good news is prices, after having jumped to 319, as you mentioned, are starting to go back down. We'll probably see a lot more stations falling into the 260s and 270s by the time Christmas rolls around. And by the way, that cycling also happens in areas like Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky. And that's what actually pushed the national average to rise slightly. It wasn't a huge trend across the entire country. It was really just price cycling here in areas of the Great Lakes.
Yeah, price cycling. It's tough to get your mind around it, but it does happen, and we see it in big communities like Cleveland when the gas stations are competing and finally have to start making some money. Let's talk about the holiday forecast. National average sees that slight bump, not really that much, last week. What's going to happen the next couple of weeks as people start to plan their budgets for travel?
Well, oil prices remain relatively low. I'm hopeful that, we're probably getting to the seventh or eighth inning here, or you call it two minute warning or so, when it comes to falling gas prices. We're probably nearing the bottom. Not that prices are going to shoot back up, but keep in mind in Cleveland and areas of Ohio, we're going to continue to see this dance where prices can fall as low as the 250s or 260s. And then they may shoot up to about 320 a gallon. And we're going to continue to see the bounce around between those two numbers, probably through maybe January or early February. That's when we're going to start seeing the seasonality take over. So again, for the next week, prices probably will continue to go down because they just went up last week. So ahead of Christmas, if you can wait to fill your tank, do that. But then we'll probably see another price cycle between Christmas and New Year's Day. And then as we get into winter and spring, then we'll start to see more noticeable increases as we progress in warmer weather.
I have a lot of people that are going to travel, not just in the state of Ohio, whether you head east to Pennsylvania, New York, that sort of region, whether you go west to Indiana, Illinois, south into Kentucky. Well, you always give such great advice if you are traveling east, west, south. What should you do? Should you fill up before you leave Ohio? What states around us are the bad states to be filling up in?
Yeah, well, and first of all, Pack Your Gas Buddy app will be able to show you real specifically. But generally speaking, if you're headed into Pennsylvania, that's one of the most expensive states. So if you're heading east, just east of Cleveland into areas like Pennsylvania, you'll want to fill up your tank before you leave the state of Ohio. Generally, if you're heading any other direction, it doesn't really matter. Although I will say a caveat, if you're heading south, wait to fill your tank. Kentucky's prices average about 25 to 30 cents lower than Ohio. Also, West Virginia is about 10 cents lower than Ohio as well. But if you're heading into Michigan, you'll probably see a little bit more expensive prices, and Indiana probably just a little bit more expensive. So avoid going east. If you have to, fill your tank before you head east. If you're heading south, wait till you head into areas like Kentucky or West Virginia to fill your tank. If you're headed west, not so much of a difference. Same thing if you're headed north into Michigan, not much of a difference.
Great advice. Patrick, as we get into the new year, obviously it's tough to have a crystal ball on gas prices and oil prices. A lot of it has to do with OPEC, how much is oil trading at. If you had to give us a first of the year forecast, the first month or two, and again, all of it is dependent on whether there's continued unrest in different regions of the world. What does January, February look like without a massive crystal ball?
Well, a lot of that, we'll see some of the lower prices stick around. You should see plenty of sub $3 prices sticking around on and off until probably mid-February. That's when refineries are going to start cranking up maintenance, and that's when we'll generally start seeing prices rise more noticeably. So if you time it right, if you're always filling up at one of the lowest, we'll say the cheapest 20% of stations, Dan, I think you should be able to make it through February if you can time it right, paying less than $3. If you're somebody that just pulls into the gas station on a Friday when you get paid, you'll probably be spending 20 or 30 cents more, and you'll probably not be able to find a whole lot of sub $3 prices, especially as we start to get into February. So not a huge increase. The bigger increases will start to mid to late February. And by spring and summer, we'll probably see gas prices in the mid to upper $3 a gallon range again.
And it all adds up. Again, the Gas Buddy app is a phenomenal tool, especially if you're traveling state to state. You can look ahead. What cities do you have coming up, and where is the cheaper gas? You may pull off an exit. It's fairly expensive, but you'll be able to use that app, maybe look down the road just a quarter mile or a mile, and find a pretty good gas price break. Patrick DeHaan, lead petroleum analyst with Gas Buddy. We certainly appreciate the expertise every year. Have a good holiday and a good 2025. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. That's going to wrap it up. Again, travel is going to start really this weekend. We wanted to give you a heads up, and Gas Buddy and Patrick DeHaan are really the best places to go for that. If we have any other breaking news, it's going to be right here on our digital properties. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a good week.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on social media at Cleveland 19 News.
Alrighty, sir. Have a good holiday for you and your family.
Thanks, Dan. Enjoy some bourbon. You got your summer travels to Michigan planned yet?
This year, we're having some family health problems.